Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh again. Inshallah, we'll now get started. Today, we'll actually go over our book number 5, lesson number 7. This lesson probably will take at least 3 to 4 different parts to complete it. And today, when I was completing it, the lesson, it took me just to be able to get to the qawaid or the rules. It has 38 slides just to be able to go through the rules. And anybody who is not attending this lesson or has not watched this lesson, even on YouTube, I can assure you that in the future you'll probably drop because this is a very key lesson in trying to understand how Quranic Arabic actually is utilized and how it is used and how those words that we sometimes see, like when we say "Qul huwallahu ahad," right? Lam yalid wa lam yulad. So why are those words actually happening the way they are happening and the way they're sounding? Why they're sounding the same this way? Why they're not sounding a different way? Because in Arabic the word is completely different. For example, lam yalid, when we say that it actually comes from walad, but why is it not being pronounced that way? So this is what we will actually discuss today. So it's very important that either if you're not part of it, I'm going to send a message in the WhatsApp group as well that if you're not part of this lesson today live, highly recommend to at least watch the YouTube. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to continue in the upcoming lessons. So inshallah, we'll get started now and I'm going to share my screen with you. There you go. This is your book number 5, lesson 7, part A. And this includes the Susabe. This is, as I mentioned, this includes probably like 38 slides just for the Qawaid. And that's all we'll probably do. Hopefully, we will be able to finish all the rules and regulations today. And that's all I prepared for today. So as you can imagine, just for the vocabulary, you have so many words that you can see over here. And a lot of these words actually are directly coming from Quran. So these words that you see over here, a lot of them are directly coming from the Quranic verses. So qala yaqulu, to say or to tell, kana yakunu, to be, zara yazuru, to visit, kama yaqumu, to get up, to stand up, Zaka yazuku, to taste, to be able to taste something, to eat something. Tafa yatufu, to go around. When we say the mataf area or when we say that we do the tawaf, it comes from the same word. Sara yasiru is a word that means to walk. Kala yakilu is to measure, and khafa yakhafu, to fear or to be afraid of. Zala yazalu, to cease, to do, to meaning to stop something. Kazaba yakzibu is to tell a lie. Asadun is which is Asad, which is the word means lion. Ghadaun means lunch. That word means one more thing as well, which you already know. Kamilun is complete. Milhun is salt. Qitarun is train. For example, when you say Mahattatul Qitar, the train station. So Ghabatun is forest. Daqiqun is flower. Sama Yusumu is to fast. Dara Yaduru is to turn. Taba yatubu is to repent. Bala yabulu is to urinate. Ja yajiu is to come. Ba yabi'u is to sell. And these words will explain why they're being pronounced as yaji'u or bay yabi'u. It's the last part of your lesson which you'll understand why we pronounce it this way. Asha yaishu is to live. Nama yanamu is to sleep. Kada yakadu is to be about to do. Ghalaba yaghlibu, to overcome something. La yazalu yadrusu, he is still studying. Adasun, which is lentil that we eat. Bukharun is there's the stream of water. Mashghulun is busy. Jubnatun is cheese. Baydatun is egg. And plural is baydun. And fakihaniun is the fruit seller. Fakihaniun is fruit seller. So these are so many of these. If you want to take a screenshot, it's okay. Today you'll not need it, but in the coming lessons, of course, you'll need it, and I will send the slides afterwards as well. So inshallah, let's go straight into the qawaid. So the very first thing that we will learn today is what is a mutaharrik pronoun. Very easy, not difficult whatsoever at all. Mutaharrik means something that moves, right? Mutaharrik means that is moving, meaning a letter that has a vowel, meaning a fatha, kasra, or dhamma. As simple as that, right? So fa, ka, a, right? I mean, if I say, for example, yuqalu, so the word ya has a dhamma on it. So this is a mutaharrik pronoun. So the word mutaharrik means simply moving. Any vowel that actually has a, any letter that has a vowel that may become the word, that letter becomes mutaharrik. So a mutaharrik pronoun is a pronoun that begins with a vowel sound, right? For example, tu, ta, ti all have vowels on them, so they are mutaharrik, right? For example, fa'altu, right? So you have a fa and then you have a fatha on it. So I did, fa'alna, we did, right? So the fa again has a fatha on it, so it becomes a mutaharrik pronoun. So again, there's no, ana or anta or nahnu. None of these words are used when we are talking about the pronouns. So you're actually using mutaharrik pronouns, and then now you have all you have um, is one of those vowels, fatha, kasra, or dhamma. So that's why they're called as mutaharrik pronouns. They're moving pronouns, meaning that the first letter has some sort of a vowel on it. Fatha, kasra, or dhamma. That's one thing. Second is the sakin pronoun, adhamiru sakin. Sakin pronoun means still. Sakin means still or without a movement, meaning it has no vowel, right? So, for example, when you have the example of fa'alat, right? So, fa'alat, there is she did, there is no movement on the ta at the end. If you see the ta at the end, she did, there is no movement on that. There is no fatha, kasra, or dhamma at the end. So, that's why it is a sakin pronoun, so meaning that there is no movement on that particular letter, or that particular letter that letter itself does not have any movement on it, fatha, kasra, or dhamma. So that's why we will call this as it's a sakin, meaning there is no movement on it. And generally, you will see this round kind of a shape on it, like but in the other Quranic versions of how the Quran is written, at least in my country, the letter is a little bit different. But generally, when you'll see this, you'll see a round sign on top of that letter. That means that you have to stop at that letter, and there is no fatha, kasra, or dhamma on it. Now, in the past tense, which is Madi, all pronouns attached to verbs like I, you, we are mutaharrik. They all have a pronouns. They all have the vowel all the time, except the ones in the falling forms. Fa'alu, fa'alat, fa'alna. Right? So in this case, you don't have a mutaharrik pronoun. These are sakin because the pronoun part, the na, ta, and alif, vav, does not begin with a vowel. So there is no vowel on it. So that's why it ends very quietly. So sakin pronouns and mutaharrik pronouns, hopefully it's very clear for everybody. Now, these are the examples. I put together a complete example so you can see. So the first four that you see, for example, they all come from fa'ala. They all are coming from the fa'ala. Examples of fa'altu, it is mutaharrik, I did. So fa'alta, you did, right? It is also mutaharrik because there is a movement at the end. Fa'alti, you did as a feminine. So it is also mutaharrik. Fa'alna, there is a na and an alif. Noon and alif, it is also mutaharrik. Fa'alat, it is she did. However, there is no movement at the end. Fa'alu, right? They did. And there is no, as you can see, that there is no fatha, kasra, dhamma at the end. Fa'alna, they did. And then the noon, it is still considered as a sakin because it is pronounced that way. Yaf'alna, same thing. It is also mutaharrik at the end.
I have a question,
Letter.
Bilal.
Please tell
If
me.
you go back to the previous slide, can you explain the second last word again? Fa'alna?
So the fa'alna, because the letter, the way it is pronounced quietly. So because it is being pronounced quietly, it is still considered as a sakin. So you're not gonna say that it is mutaharrik, even though there is a letter on it, but it is pronounced quietly. That's why it is considered as a sakin.
How would you pronounce it quietly? Like if you are saying fa'alna, the quiet would be fa'alin.
Fa'alna. So because the na is like this, like na, just because it's a na like this, that's why it is not fa'alti, fa'altu, it is fa'alna like this is because it is called as sakin. And I'll explain this in the detail also in the coming lectures, in the coming
Because
slides.
like if you look at the last word, yaf'alna, we're
Yeah,
also
but
pronouncing it like that.
yeah, it is, but it is still considered as mutaharrik because the way you're pronouncing it, because it is not madi, it is mudare. In mudare, it will be considered as mutaharrik. In madi, it will be considered as a sakin. I'll explain this in the coming slides. So there are too many slides, so I'm going to have to go quickly a little bit. I will explain this in the coming slide. It is coming up. So don't worry about it. Second thing, weak letters, we already saw this the last time. Mu'attal al-ain, that these letters are weak letters. For example, the kala, it actually comes from the word qaul, right? So it is actually kavala, right? It is kavala. And then same thing, ba'a, it actually is from ba, ya, and ain, right? So he sold. Khafa is actually also from khawafa. So, but in Arabic language, you cannot say khawafa, so you actually will come up with khafa, right? So that's why these are called as mu'attal al-ain, that also called as ajwaf. They're hollow because the middle radical drops or lengthens in conjugation. So instead of saying kavala, the real way to say it is kavala, but you will not say kavala, you'll actually say kala. Same thing, baya'a, you'll not say baya'a because it is not being pronounced correctly. If you just try to pronounce it, it will pronounce very awkwardly. So you will say ba'a. Khawafa, you can't say khawafa, you'll say khafa. So these are the second radical letters are weak. So they're called as mu'attatul ain. We learned this the last time. So this is one slide I wanted to make sure that you see this before I go to the next one. Now, what happens when you actually look at these letters, right? So we got muattal lines, right? So step one is the original root letters, as I explained in the previous slide. So kala actually comes from kavala. Yaqulu, it comes from yaqvulu, but you cannot pronounce it like that. Okay, so that's why you'll say yaqulu. Sara, it actually comes from sayara. So yasiru, it comes from Yasiru, so it will become Yasiru. Comes from Navimu. Yanamu comes from Yanvimu. So these are the real original forms of these letters, the way you see it on the in the middle. But the way you will actually pronounce it, you'll actually pronounce it on the left hand side. So the middle weak letter, Ya or Wow, changes to a longer letter, alif, ya, or waw, depending on the pattern, right? So you can see qavala becomes qala, yaqvulu becomes yaqulu because it is easier to pronounce. And the only thing I can explain, the way the scholars have explained this, is that the reason why these are written like this is because it is easier to pronounce like that. That's why those words are written the way they are written. Otherwise, it is not correctly to be. It is not easy to pronounce yakulu or kavala. So that's why the form has been changed to kala. So the long letter will actually change into a longer vowel, right? You'll have a longer vowel. Step two, what happens when you that? When we attach the pronouns like I, you, and we, this is the new part of this lesson today. When we add pronouns, isnad or mutaharrik, right? Meaning that we add the pronouns like I, you, or we, extra vowel changes happens. There are more vowel changes that will happen now. For example, with kala, he said when we add pronouns, it changes in a very different, very special way. So the root verb, the verb kala, he said, comes from the root kavala, as I already mentioned. Kavala. So the original pattern in Arabic was kavala, but the Arabic does not like the sound combination, meaning the awa word in the middle, right? This is a kavala. It does not. So it changes the middle letter into a long alif. It makes it kala. So the kavala becomes kala, right? So that he said originally it was kavala. So hopefully this part we have already understood, that we will change the letters differently and they will pronounce differently. Okay. Now, when we add pronouns, it's now the mutaharrik. When you add pronouns like tu, ti, right, or I, Arabic must adjust the words to make it easy to pronounce, right? So the original root, as I said, is kavala. He said. Simplified third person will be kala. So now we have replaced the wow with an alif. Now when we add I, right, or alif or tu, meaning kavaltu, So instead of saying kavaltu, originally, this is what it be, but it's awkward to say kavaltu. Instead of saying kavaltu, we will say kultu, right? Instead of saying kavaltu, we will say kultu, just like instead of saying kavala, we said kala. Instead of saying kavaltu, I will say kultu. Now, why does this change? Simply because of the pronunciation case. Arabic avoids awkward clusters like kavaltu or any other pronunciation issues that you see. Just to be able to fix those pronunciation issues, this rule actually exists so that you can actually pronounce it correctly. Now, same rule for the AU verb types. So, khafa becomes with the I, right? It will become khiftu, I feared. Kala becomes kultu, meaning I said. Dara, zurtu becomes I visited. Sama, sumtu, it becomes I fasted, right? So, khafa meaning that he feared. Kala, he said. Zara, he visited. Sama, he fasted. When I added the I, meaning I'm talking about myself, so now I'm going to say khiftu, qultu, right? So instead of khififtu or kavaltu, zavartu, savamtu, I will actually say sumtu, zurtu, qultu, and khiftu. Okay. Now, why these changes happen again, as I mentioned, is because of the way it is pronounced. So, to be able to fix the pronunciation issues, these changes happen and those letters are dropped. So, AU type, you have kala, it will become, when you add the I, it will say kultu, and then the V form, it will become kulna. To walk, which is to Sara, right? So, Sara, meaning he walked, right? I will say sirtu, that I walked, sirna, we walked. To sleep is nama, right? So nama will become nimtu, and then nimna is that we slept. Now, this is basically now instead of, because all your book had was this. This is the only thing your book was trying to explain. So I had to come up with those 5 slides prior ahead of time to be able to explain you what this book actually is saying. So this is simply the same thing that I told you in the last 5 slides. So mu'attal ilain or ajwaf verbs, as we have seen earlier, these verbs have waw or ya as the second letter. Nama, yanamu, khafa, yakhafu, ya, ba'a, zabiyu, right? So these verbs have undergone certain changes as explained below. Qala is originally qavala, so it will change into yaqulu, right? Or sorry, it will become qala, and yaqulu is actually coming from yaqwulu. Sara is originally sayara, and then uh, Yasiru is Yasiru. It also is coming from Yasiru, and then Nama is coming from Navimu. Yanama is coming from Yanvamu. So these are changes to make it easier to pronounce. That's the only reason why these changes actually happen. This is also coming from your book as well. I also explained you the same thing that in the Ajwaf verbs of AU group, the first letter takes Dhamma, and at the time of its isnad or mutaharrik pronouns, Qulna, Qultu, Qaltum, Qulti, Qultunna, Qultu, Qulna, as against the original Fatha, Qalat, Qalu, Qala, right? So these changes are happening just because of pronunciation. It is easier to pronounce, it is incorrect to pronounce the way the original form actually will tell you to pronounce. Okay, this is the second slide of your book. The second radical letter is omitted, as can be seen in the above examples. In the Mudare, previous example that I was showing you, it is better for me to be able to show you the next slide when you add the word lam, meaning there's a negation added. Whenever you actually add some sort of a negation, what will happen to those same kind of words? So, step one, first thing we're talking about, we already know that the verb yakulu is coming from the word yakwulu, right? Or kavala that we saw before. Yabi'u, same thing. As I mentioned, it was coming from bayaun, but again, we cannot say bayaun, so that's why you actually fix it. Now, all these letters have a middle letter ya or wow. All of them, you can see, they have a middle letter, ya or waw. But where is the middle letter, ya or waw? In the root letter. Just keep that in mind. Otherwise, it will become a little confusing. So the middle letter has been shown in the root letter. So that's why they're called as the weak letter is the second radical letter, since every verb has 3 total radicals, as you can see in the middle. Second step, the second radical is omitted. When the verb is connected to certain mutaharrik pronouns, pronouns that start with a vowel sound like ta, na, the middle weak letter ya or wow disappears completely. So the ya or wow completely will disappear. So now when we attach mutaharrik pronouns like noon or tha or ya, the weak letter completely drops. Now I'm gonna ask somebody, one of you have to tell me, when I say yaqulu and then the next pronoun becomes taqulna, where is the letter dropped? Which letter dropped over here?
Wow.
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 Very good. But where did it drop? So, or let me ask this differently. Maybe I'm incorrectly asking. What would be the pronunciation of this letter taqulna if I had a vowel in the middle?
Takwalna.
Taqwalna, exactly. So that's why you can see that you can imagine that how would you actually say taqwalna, right? It will be completely incorrect pronunciation. So that's why the letter actually completely dropped. So the wow letter completely dropped. Same thing over here. Yaqulna, it will be yaqulna, right? So you can't really pronounce it correctly. So that's why it become yaqulna that they say. Same thing for yabiu. So same thing over here. There is a letter that is dropped over here. So all of these letters, as you can see over here, there is a weak letter that is being dropped to be able to pronounce these words correctly. Now there are four states. So hopefully this is everybody understands that you drop those letters to be able to pronounce them correctly. Next one is what is majzoom? We have gone through this, but I'm going to ask this before going to the slide. Anybody can tell me what is majzoom? Somebody has to tell
With
me.
the sukoon, Bilal.
Say that one more time, sorry.
With the sukoon, with
Uh,
which has no haraka on it.
which has no okay, yeah. So okay, now okay, you are haraka. Yeah, so you're right. So when there is no haraka,
Madina.
then the let or the, so when you actually drop that, right, there is nothing in the end. That is called as majzoom, right? So generally, you know that in the present tense you have four different grammatical states. Everybody knows marfu. Everybody knows marfu. Marfu means that you have a, it's going to take a dhamma. Mansoob, that it's going to take a fatha. Then you have majzoom. Majzoom means that it does not take anything whatsoever at all. In fact, that it is dropped. Even if it was there, it is completely dropped. For example, when you say lam yaktub, the ba at the end does not have any letter whatsoever at all. Now, Amar is the fourth one, the form without the prefix or with a very special form, right? So, iktub or uktub is also something where you actually don't have anything at the end. Mazoom is just a state. It usually appears after certain particles and shows as a sense of negation, command, or a condition, right? So, Mazoom is where you have some sort of a negation, some sort of a command, but you will not say always there is a command. Generally, Mazoom is used when you have some sort of a negation, that you have this lam word added, right? The word when you see the word lam, I'll give you more examples in the upcoming slides that he did not write. That's when you'll actually have these. Then that's when you will actually call it as Mazoom. In real sense, the Mazoom word simply means cut off or clipped, completely cut off or clipped. So that's why when a verb becomes Mazoom, something is cut off at the end. Either the vowel becomes a sukoon or the last letter, like a weak wow or ya, is dropped completely. That you will not actually add those words whatsoever at all, those letters whatsoever at all. Or you'll have a sukoon at the end. So that's what is called as majzoom. One quick second, sorry. Okay. So when does the verb becomes a majzoom? A verb becomes a majzoom after certain particles called as haraful jazm. So all the haruful jazm or haraful jazm, when you add those particles, that's when or the words, that's when a verb becomes majzoom. For example, you add the word lam, which means did not. When you say lam yaktub, you can say he did not write. At the end, as you can see, instead of saying yaktubu, it came from yaktubu. But you will not say lam yaktubu, you'll actually say lam yaktub. When you add lamma, has not yet, right? Has not yet. You'll say lamma yaktub instead of yaktubu. Again, there is no dhamma at the end. You'll actually drop that. Or you say la nahiya, meaning the don't prohibition. La taktub, don't write. Right? Again, there is a command at the same time, there is a negation here as well. Or in, when you say in, if meaning conditional, it's not inna by the way, okay? It is only in. In taktub, if you write, right? In taktub, if you write, in this condition, as you can see, that you also dropped a vowel at the end. There is no in taktubu. So these are the four laws which when you say huruful jazm, when the verb become a majzoom, meaning there is some sort of a negation or some sort of a command, even though the command also is coming into a prohibition side, style as well. Okay, how it changes the verb. So now let's see with these examples, how the marfu changes to majzoom. Yaktubu, when you add lam yaktub, he did not write. Yaqulu, lam yaqul, not lam yaqulu, he did not say. Yabi'u, become lam yabi', that he did not sell. Yasiru, lam yasir, he did not walk. Yanamu, lam yanam, that he did not sleep. So this is how the last vowel is dropped completely. The marfu will change into majzoom. This is the example, and that's why I said it is very important for everybody to understand this, right? Because you need to understand this lesson to be able to understand Quran. These are the examples from Quran that I copied. So, lam yalid walam yulad, right? He begets not, nor he begotten, meaning that he was not born, neither does he give any birth to anybody. So, lam means did not, right? So, we already know. Look at the slide before that. We already know that the slide before that when we add lam, it becomes did not, the word did not. And then when you say this particle is going to cause the majzoom, yalid from the verb valada. It is coming from the verb valada, to give birth. Now the root is yalidu, just like yaktubu, or yakulu, yabiu, yasiru. It is also coming from the pattern of yalidu, right? So present tense marfu. Now after the lam, it will not be. You will not say lam yalidu. You'll actually say lam yalid, right? The final dhamma, the lam yalidu, is completely dropped, and now you have a sukoon at the end. As you can see, lam yalid has a sukoon at the end. Yulad, when you say valam yulad, again you have a lam before the word yulad. So it is also coming from wulidu, right? To be born. So originally it was a yuladu. So instead of yulad, this word was actually yuladu. But when you add lam, it becomes yulad. Lam yalid, valam yulad. Now both verbs are mazum because you added a lam before that. Because he added did not and again did not. So did not, he does not beget, right? He begets not, nor he has begotten, right? So then meaning that he was not born, neither he gives birth to anybody. The words were not these the same way. The real pattern of this word was yalidu, right? And then in the present tense marfu, the real word was yalidu, and then over here yuladu. But because of the word lam, it changes into lam yalid walam yulad. Hopefully everybody understands this. Yes? Anybody who did not understand, please let me know. Okay. Another word over here, we make this dua all the time, right? Anybody who generally at night, right? So Rabbana la tu'akhizna, right? So forget about the last word na, okay? So do not look at the word na. Rabbana la tu'akhiz. Only look at the word the tu'akhiz, not the na. Otherwise you'll get confused. So Rabbana la tu'akhizna in nasina or akhtana. Our Lord, do not take us to the task if we forget or make a mistake. Now, the word la again is a prohibiting, do not, right? Tuakhiz, it actually comes from the word yuakhiz, right? Akhaza and then yuakhiz, to be held accountable. So the base form was what? Can anybody tell me? So when I say Rabbana la tuakhizna, what is the base form for tuakhiz?
تؤاخذ.
Tuakhizu. So instead of saying Rabbana la tuakhizu, you'll say Rabbana la tuakhizna. And na is only for a we because you're talking about yourself. That's why you're saying multiple people, Rabbana la tuakhizna. So it will actually change from Rabbana tuakhizuna, it will change to Rabbana la tuakhizna. Everybody understands that? Yes? If you do not understand, please let me know. It's very important to understand these things. Understanding the Quran depends on this. Okay. Now, this is simply again from your book. Your book only had this. So I had to do those 5 slides to explain you these 3 lines that they mention in the book. So lam yaqul actually is coming from lam yaqul. Right? Here both the waw and the lam are sakin vowels, right? So the weak letters waw is completely omitted, right? So you'll say lam yaqul. Now, lam yasir is coming from lam yasiru, right? Lam yasir. So here both the ya and the ra are sakin. So the weak letter ya is omitted. Lam yanam coming from lam yanam. The alif and the mim are sakin. So the weak letter alif is omitted, right? So lam yanam coming from lam yanam. You'll not say lam yanam. You'll say lam yanam. Lam yasir comes from lam yasir, but you'll not say you'll not say lam yasir. You'll say lam yasir. Okay. What is amr? Let me go back. What is Amar? Anybody other than brother Ahmad Keen?
Command.
It's an command. Very good. So the Amar means command. It's when you tell somebody to do something. Qul means say or 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 talk when you want to say to somebody talk. When you say sil means walk. Nam means sleep. Now in Arabic, the imperative Amar form is derived from the present tense mudare verb in the majzoom state, the cut-off form. Can anybody tell me what this last line actually means by looking at the words above? Read the last 2 lines and tell me what does it really mean by looking at the Arabic words above.
So what it says that the Amar is derived from the present tense by making the last letter skun, right? That cool.
So Qul and Sir and Nam, they are all coming from the majzoom state. Why? Because they don't have any vowel at the end. You'll not say Qula or Kulu or Kuli, right? None of them actually have any of that. So they're all coming from the majzoom state, meaning that they will not take any vowel at the end. That's basically what this line actually means. Now,
Okay.
couple of examples, what happens in the Amar command form. When you give a command, the second radical, the weak middle letter is omitted or dropped. Meaning that when you just like it was dropped in the mazook form, right? So instead of saying cool, you'll say kul, right? So the base form, for example, in this over here is kala. The present tense will be what? Yaqulu. Mazoom form with lam will become lam yaqul. Imperative form will also take kul only, right? Even though there is no lam before that, but because it is an order, it is a command, it will also not take any vowel at the end. When you're giving a command, it will not take any vowel at the end. Qul sir nam, right? So this is a complete table that helps you explain the whole thing. Everybody understands this? If you do not understand this, you have to ask me right now, please. Okay, so hopefully everybody understands this. This continues. Now, the word kul, sir, nam, when you change this into for multiple people, when you're saying it to one man, you'll say kul. When you're saying it to one woman, you'll say kuli. When you say to many people, you say kulu. When you're saying sir, it means walk to one person. When saying it to one woman, you'll say siri, not the Siri of Apple. And then when you're talking about to many people, you'll say zero, right? Now, why does the middle letter drop? Just like the in Mazum, Arabic drops the weak middle letter to make pronunciation easy. For example, instead of saying cool, which is awkward to say, you'll say kul. Instead of saying sir, it becomes sir, right? It is easier to pronounce and it actually makes it sound like a command also, right? So instead of saying walk, talk, right? You'll say talk, or you'll say, just walk. It's very similar to that. Instead of saying sir, walk, you'll say sir. It makes it sound like a command as well. If you see the way I'm saying it, instead of saying qul, qul hu Allahu ahad, it doesn't even sound like a command. When you say qul, it actually literally sounds like a command that you're telling somebody to be able to do something. Everybody understands this? Any place where you do not understand, you have to ask me, okay? Okay. Now, this is with some Quranic examples as well, right? So, Qul huwallahu ahad, say He is Allah, one, right? So, Qul here is the command, right? Which coming from the word Qul, right? So, the waw is completely dropped over here. Siru fil ard, travel through the earth. Surah Al-An'am, right? So, Siru is the plural coming from Sara. Now, fafirru is another command, is also mentioned in Quran. So flee to Allah. Indeed, I am to you from Him a clear warner. So fafirru ilallah. You must have heard this very many times. In fact, my alarm in the morning actually says this. So whenever my alarm rings with this particular ayah of Quran. Only this part. Fafirru ilallah. Run towards Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And I have to find one quick thing for you. Give me one quick second. Uh, where did it go? One quick second. I'm just trying to do something quick and then explain to you. Sorry. So now this is what was mentioned in your book. So this was the part that I explained to you in the previous slides, and I will explain to you in the upcoming slides as well. So those last 5 slides were only related to this particular slide that you see now. There's one more rule regarding the Amr, that there is no need to add the Hamzatul Wasl, meaning the Alif, as you know, some people will call it as an Alif, at the beginning of the Amr, as it does not commence with the Sakin letter. I will explain this in the upcoming slide. For example, from Taqul, we get Qul. After omitting the initial Ta, the final Dhamma, and Qul is changed to Qul, because Ittaqaw Sakinin, that because of the pronunciation, because you cannot pronounce it correctly. From Tasir, we get to Sir, which is changed to Sir. Tanam, we get to Nam, which is changed to Nam. So I'm going to explain this to you in this upcoming slide. Now, forming the Amr command from Ajwaf verbs, right? Meaning all those, the weak letters. So this explains the way, this whole thing will explain how do we get the forms of Nam, Qul and Sir. Now, the first thing we need to remember over here is there is no need for Hamzatul Wasl. Why there is no need for Hamzatul Wasl in these commands? Normally, when a verb starts with the Sakoon, silent letter, Arabic adds a connecting Hamza, right? Alif, to help it pronounce it. For example, Iktub, right? Or from Kataba, right? Because the Ka and then Ta and then Ba, the Ta does not have any letter. So, because it starts with the Sakoon. But in Sir, Qul or Nam, there is no sukoon at the start. They begin with a vowel letter. Like, you can see the Qul have a Dhamma, and then Seen has a Sir has a kasra, and then the noom has a fatha. So no hamzatul wasl is needed. Now kataba, the first question to ask over here that you must have seen, the kataba, the root is kataba. The present tense mudare is yaktubu. He writes. This is the form from which we create the imperative amr. Now, when you drop the prefix, the ya, because the command directly addresses you, this leaves you with khataba, meaning without the fatha. There is no fatha over here. There is no ya, so there is no fatha over here as well. So for the whenever you're using kul, sir, or nam, when you are talking about these letters, you don't need to add hamzatul wasr, meaning that you're not saying iktub, you're not saying ekul, inum, or isur. You don't need to do that. Why? Because the first letter that you see over here already has a vowel on it. In the previous one, did not have a. For example, kataba, you do not have a vowel on it, right? Because that's why you'll have to say iktub. You're not gonna say. And so same thing for the kul or the sir or the nam, because they have the vowels already on top of it. You don't need to add a hamzatul wasl to make it sound correctly, because you don't need to, right? Because you're not gonna say a nam or a kul or a sir. Okay, yes, please go ahead.
We should say uktub, not iktub, right? Because
Yes,
uktub,
that's correct. Yes,
we shouldn't, because it has a dhamma.
correct. Okay, now how each form is derived? Very simple. I just created this table to be able to make it very simple. The root is kaf, waw, and lam, right? So the present tense is taqul. From taqul, you're gonna come into qul. How will you come into qul? You'll drop the ta. You don't need to have the ta. You drop the final dhamma after the lam. You remove the weak letter, which is the vav in the middle, and just the vowel on the kaf. Now it becomes qul. Right? Simply same thing. Tasiru. You drop the ta, then you drop the final dhamma. You remove the weak letter, which is a ya, right? And adjust the vowel to sir. Same thing for tanamu. Instead of saying tanamu, you'll actually say nam. You'll remove the ta. You'll drop the final dhamma. You remove the vav, and then you adjust the vowel, which is nam. So the weak middle letter ya or wow disappears. That's why these are short, light, and one syllable commands. So you can very easily pronounce this. So instead of saying the longer way of pronouncing this, you'll actually say kul, sir, and nam to be able to pronounce them correctly. And then you will not need to also add a hamzatul wasl at the beginning. Okay. It's already 9:50. Okay. This is the
Is
second
it
one.
only is it only these three ways or what?
Yes.
Or only the three? Okay.
Not three, anything that has a vowel on it. Any letter that has a
Oh,
vowel on it, you don't need to add a hamzatul wasl at the beginning. So I gave you three
oh,
examples because these are the three examples that were in your book. So I used the three examples to give you. Anything that has a vowel in it, you don't need to add a hamzatul wasl at the beginning.
okay.
Okay. The next thing is qasam or oath in Arabic language. Very simple. Over here, wallahi laqad kittu amut. By Allah, I almost died. Now, first question I'm going to ask this before I go to the next slide. Why does it say wallahi other than brother Ahmad Keen? Why does it say wallahi? Why didn't it say wallahu? Because wallahi is something that should appear when you're using a preposition. So why is we saying wallahi? Brother Ahmad, do you know?
It's because it's waw al-qasam,
Wow.
meaning that it has to take kasra.
Yeah, because of the wow actually is a preposition. So wow over here is becoming a preposition. That's why it is taking though in Arabic language, because of the qasam, because of the oath, this wow is being treated as a preposition. So by Allah, instead of saying or Allah, remember wow actually simply means or, right? And, right? So instead of saying to translate this correctly, wallahi means by Allah, right? So because of this by, just like in and all that, right? So because of by, from, whenever you have these words by, from, in, on, right? all these words, the next word that you have will always take a kasra. So same thing over here because of the wow, which is that you're adding over here, you're taking it as a kasam. So instead of saying and, which is the really real word of the real meaning of translation of the word wow, you're saying wallahi, and the Allah is actually taking the word Allah is taking the kasra at the end. So that's why you're pronouncing it wallahi, not wallahu or wallaha. So wallahi kittu amut, almost by Allah, almost died after the kasam. Affirmative madi, meaning that you're in positive. You're not saying something negative. You're not saying something in negation, right? You should always ask with the emphasis of laqad. The negative madi does not need any emphasis. So when you're talking about, when you're saying the same word, by Allah, I almost did not die, you will not add the word laqad. That's all that you have to learn over here in this particular slide. So when you're talking about affirmative, you'll add the word laqad in most cases. And if you don't, if you're talking about negation, then you will not add the word laqad. Somebody was asking something? Okay, so look at the next example. Wallahi laqad ra'aytuhu fi suq. By Allah, I saw him in the market. So you added the word laqad over here, right? So wallahi, we already know by Allah. Ra'aytuhu, I saw him. Fi suq, in the market. But you added emphasis over here. You added laqad over here as an emphasis. Next one,
And
wallahi.
the card means what?
I'm going to explain in the
Like,
next slide. One quick second. It's simply adding emphasis, right? I'm going to explain this in the next slide.
okay.
Wallahi laqad sami'tu hadha al-khabara min kathiri min nas. Billahi, by Allah, I heard this news from many people. But when you're saying in something in negation, Wallahi ma akaltu shay'a, by Allah, I ate nothing. But you'll not add any laqad over here. So there is no laqad being added over here as an emphasis. Same thing, Wallahi ma katabtu hadha, by Allah, I did not write this. You will not add the word laqad over here. Now, same thing. This actually was already mentioned here. So the wow of wallahi is a preposition, as I mentioned in the beginning. Okay, now let's look at the next slide. Why this word means and why these words, what these words actually really mean. Emphasis after the qasam. It's about what happens after an oath like wallahi, by Allah happens. I already explained to you in the previous slides. Rule number one: after wallahi, the affirmative past madi takes a laqad. In the Arabic, when you swear by Allah and you say something affirmative and positive, in the past tense, you usually add laqad for emphasis. Can anybody tell me there's something else that we learn in the book number 1 or 2? When you have to add emphasis, you say something. What is that? We talked about the affirmative words.
Inna?
Good, yeah. There's anything else?
What was
Okay.
the question?
When you add emphasis in Arabic language, what do you do when you add when you have to add emphasis in Arabic language?
In قد لقد um, mm,
Anna?
Is it the shadda?
in can
Shadda. Yeah, very
in
good.
can also be sometimes in can sometimes.
Okay, anybody else?
I know shadda is a sign of emphasis.
Shadda is sign of emphasis. By the way, just the
Hmm.
word, just the instead of saying qad, laqad, you can also say qad, and also the word kalla. Kalla is
Mm.
also, when you remember, this is the basic example I was asking you. The
Mm.
word
Oh,
kalla,
okay.
it is also emphasis. You're simply adding, for example, kalla sawfa ta'lamuna summa kalla sawfa ta'lamun, right? So that is also adding emphasis in the sentence. Inna, of course, everybody gave the correct example. Inna. Oh, sorry, my mom is sitting right upstairs and she's calling me. Okay, so all of these words are simply adding emphasis on the letters. Now, in Arabic, when you swear by Allah and say something as I mentioned, so for example, Wallahi laqad kitu amut, by Allah, indeed, I almost died. Positive laqad, it has a laqad over here. Same thing the second. So whenever the statement after by Allah affirms something that did happen, you will add you will use the word laqad, right? For emphasis and certainty. Give me one quick second. Sorry, I was getting this call. Okay. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead, please. Abdurrahman, you're muted right now. I can't hear you.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have to say something like "I never saw him," like never, is that negative? Like, can I say that? With by Allah, I never saw him. Can you say that?
Yes, you can, but then you'll not say the word laqad in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, same thing I explained to you in the much more detail over here, that when you're talking about something negative, by Allah I ate nothing, by Allah I did not write anything, by I did not write this, you will not say add the word laqad. Now, why this happens? Because in Arabic language, laqad is a double emphasis tool. Ka for emphasis, sorry, lam for emphasis, which is called as a lam taqeed, right? That you're actually adding emphasis, the lam of emphasis. So when you're talking about this lam in the beginning, this is the answer to your question, brother Abdullah Saeed. When you're adding this lam in the beginning, this is called as a lam taqeed, meaning that it's a lam of emphasis. And qad is often used with the past tense to mean indeed, just like you would say inna. The very similar meaning is over here as well. So when you're talking about when you're adding emphasis, you'll use the word lam with the fatha, and then the qad means indeed. So laqad means you're adding double emphasis. Does that make sense now? So lam is already an emphasis. The lam over here is already an emphasis. Qad also means indeed. So now it is called as a double emphasis tool. Does that make sense now? Brother Abdullah Saeed, you're muted if you're answering something.
Yeah, that explains it. Thank you.
Yeah, simply means indeed.
Mhm.
Okay, this is the third, and I think we have 8 of these to go through today. So, Zanantuhu Daftari, I thought it to be my book. It's simply Azannu. If you remember the word Azunnu, the same thing is being used
Yeah,
over here. So, Zanantuhu Daftari, I thought it to be my book. The word Zannu takes 2 objects, and both are in Mansub. For example, al-jawu jamilun, the weather is fine. When I say azunnul javva jamilan, can anybody tell me what does this mean? This word azunnul javva jamila. What does this mean?
I think the weather
I
is
thought
nice.
that is beautiful.
I think the
I
weather is
thought the
beautiful.
weather would be nice.
Yeah, I think the weather is fine. Weather is beautiful. Al-babu mughlaqun. Again, the pattern we have to remember over here. Azunnul baba mughlaqan. They are both going to take a fatha. Both these objects that you have afterwards, after azunnu, they will take a fatha. So babu becomes baba, mughlaqun becomes mughlaqan. Same thing, al-imtihanu ba'idun, the examination is far. I think the examination is far. You'll say azunnul imtihana ba'idan. Anta tabibun. So you are a doctor. Azunnuka tabiban. Right? Again, it will take fatha in both cases. That's the only explanation that you need over here. That when you add the word azunnu, the objects that you have, it takes 2 objects afterwards. They will both be in mansub form. They will both take the fatha. Okay. This is simply a sentence. All your book had was just this. Okay. Ijlis haythu tasha'u. Sit where you wish. Basically, that's what they explained. That if you want to tell somebody to sit where they want to, right? Just simply say ijlis haythu shay'a, that sit where you wish. The word ijlis, it's an amr, meaning it's a command, right? You can see the last letter does not have any kind of a fatha, dhamma or kasra, right? So it means sit. It's an imperative coming from jalasa yajlisu, right? And begins with a hamzatul wasl because the verb starts with the sukoon after a prefix removal, right? So that's why you're adding a alif over here, hamzatul wasl, ijlis. You cannot say jilis. It cannot even pronounce correctly. So haisu simply means where. Tashau, it means where you wish, right? So ijlis, haisu tashau, that sit where you wish. So word by word explanation. Now, the word yajiyu, the hamza is written after the ya because both the ya and the hamza are pronounced. But the lam yaji, the hamza is written above the ya. Here only the hamza is pronounced and the ya is only a chair for the hamza. Now, look at the case number 1. Both ya and hamza are pronounced. Yajiyu. Hamza written after the ya. Hamza is written after the ya. Okay, so this is very important to remember over here. Both the ya and the hamza are pronounced. The sequence is I U, right? So you will actually pronounce it this way. All I'm trying to explain is the way a simple word is written. In Arabic language, when you have this hamza written after the ya, you will actually have to pronounce this. If it is not written after the ya, meaning it is on top of the ya, you will not pronounce the hamza. So in this case, the first one is yaji'u, the second one is lam yaji, meaning that there is no pronunciation of the hamza afterwards. Shafakallah shifa'an kamilan, may Allah grant you complete health. Simply a letter, simply a sentence. If you want to talk to somebody or somebody is sick, you simply say shafakallah, right? Allah grant you, may Allah grant you the health. Shifa'an kamilan, complete health. So shafakallah shifa'an kamilan, may Allah grant you complete health. La yambaghi, it is not proper, it is not becoming. For example, la yambaghi talibi an yaghib, that it is not proper for a student to be absent. La yambaghi laka an taqulu hadha, it is not becoming of you to say this, that it is not your place to say this. So when you want to say it is not your place, when you want to say that it is not proper, you will use the word la yambaghi. And in Quran this word is used as well. I think this is the last slide. The word mata, it comes in 2 groups. Mata yamatu, meaning nama yanamu, right? And then it also comes from mata yamutu. They both mean the same thing. No difference whatsoever at all. In your book, the thing that they're trying to explain is the word mittu and muttu. So the word mittu and muttu, they both exactly mean the same thing. No difference whatsoever at all. That's the only thing the book has tried to explain to you over here. So one thing is mittu, the other one is muttu. Both words mean I died. Both of these 2 words means I died. All they tried to explain is because these words are going to appear in Quran. The word mittu, I think it appears in Quran for like 9 times. And the word muttu, it appears 2 times in Quran. And both of these 2 words actually mean I died. Are there comments or questions? No. Okay. Okay. So I think this is where we have this, and I still have to answer Brother Osama's question. So I'm going to answer this in a second. Oh, let me see if there's any other slide afterwards. Let's see if there is any slide. Okay, no. So there are no slides. So this is all the lesson today. These are only all of your rules as of today. I think it will take probably 3, because there are 23 different exercises in this lesson. So it probably will take 2 or 3 more parts of this lesson to be able to answer this. So now let's go back to the first question that Brother Sama had asked. The question was related to this part. So fa'alna, which is in Madi. That's a key part of Sama you have to remember over here, okay? That this is in Madi and this is the word is fa'alna. And the second one is mudare. It is in the present tense, yaf'alna. Now let's look at recall the actual rule. So mutaharrik, which is moving, the pronouns begins with a vowel and has a short vowel mark, fatha, kasra or dhamma. That's already clear, right? That if you have a fatha, kasra or dhamma, that is called as a mutaharrik pronoun, correct? Ramay, are you there?
Wait. Yes, Bilal, that's correct. Yep.
Okay. Sakin is when you do not pronounce, right? That the pronoun has a sukoon, no vowel whatsoever at all. Correct? Now, look at the first example. Look at each case, right? So, fa'alna. Fa'alna means she or they, meaning in the feminine form, did. The verb is fa'ala, he did. The pronoun is noon and then there is a fatha, meaning they in the feminine form. When you attach these together, it will become what? Fa'alna. Now look closely at the final sound. The na in this first one, it actually is a sakin in the function. In the function, you're adding this to be able to uh, call the word na or call the they in the feminine form because you're saying it to pronounce or to translate it the they in the feminine form. This noon with the fatha is being said to be able to say the they in the feminine form, right? So it does not take any extra vowel sound in the pronunciation. It will not be fa'alna or fa'allana. It is not being pronounced like this, right? So the short a that you see as a fatha is simply the inherent vowel needed to connect it to the previous previous letter, not because it's a moving toward another vowel. It is not an additional vowel being added over here. So how we pronounced it is fa'alna. The na ends the word, nothing follows it afterwards. So hence the sakin is final. The second example, which is the yaf'alna, they, which is female, the they do, it comes from yaf'alu. Remember, the first one was coming from where? Fa'ala. This one is coming from fa'ala. The second is coming from yaf'alu, meaning that he does. The pronoun over here is also noon, which is with the fatha, the they with the feminine. When you attached, it becomes yaf'alna. Now listen to how it is used. The noon with the fatha here is followed by another word. Since in speech it's not terminal, right? You're not going to end the speech over here. There is another word that will be added afterwards. They do something, right? So you will add another word afterwards and has an active vowel fatha, that the word does not actually end over here. It will continue to be added. There is something else that will be added afterward. It is part of the continuous verb system in the present tense. So that's why it is called as mutaharrik. The noon itself carries a vowel that's usually pronounced to connect. It isn't closing the word, it's moving. That meaning that it is still mutaharrik. That it is mutaharrik, meaning that it will be connected with something else afterwards. So pronunciation will be yaf'alna. The na in the end flows into what comes after. So it is counts as a moving. That's why the first one, it can end. There is nothing required afterwards. It will have the end at that point. The second one cannot end over there. They do, and there will be something that will be added afterwards. So that's why it is called as mutaharrik, not sakin. Does that answer your question now or no?
Uh, no, but because like if you look at from my
If you're
point of
only
view, like
thinking about the fatha, kasra, and dhamma, then you'll get confused. Do not be confused with fatha, kasra, and dhamma only. Okay. Think about that it is moving because there is another word that will be added afterwards. Something will be added afterwards. It cannot end over there. Something needs to be added afterwards. So that's why it is called as mutaharrik. That something needs to get added afterwards.
I'll go through the slides and the explanation again. Like you don't have to explain anymore. If I still have question, I'll reach out to you.
Okay. So again, in the fa'alna, the fatha only appears because Arabic cannot write a consonant without a vowel mark, right? So the word ends there, in a sakin usage, right? In yaf'alna, the fatha is usually pronounced to join with which is followed afterwards, which is called as mutaharrik. Something needs to get added afterwards. It will be added afterwards. That's why it is called as mutaharrik. Or maybe another example to explain. So think of it like sakin is a parked car. It stopped, right? So fatha just marks its color. Mutaharrik, a moving car. Same look, but engine is running, and it's in motion connecting forward. So there is a fa'alna is a stopped car, and yaf'alna is a moving car. That the engine is running and the car is moving. That the word has to continue to move. It will not stop. Anyways, so if you're
Start. Is it the yap and because it's a present this and that's why it's
yeah,
a moving.
yeah. It's
Okay.
actually it's in the present tense. It's moving,
Okay.
and
Okay.
the other one is in the madi. It stopped.
Okay.
So
All
that's
right.
what it's called as sakin, right? So it actually the movement completely stopped for the entire sentence.
Okay.
One thing is a stopped car, right? In this case, is a stopped car. This is the moving car. This is the present tense, and this is a past tense.
Okay.
Okay. Swami, if you did not understand, please talk to me afterwards. I try to give as many examples as possibly could. But do not think as a just because there is a fatha kasra being added, no, the words are changing. This is not the reason. There is something that will get added afterwards. And more importantly, because one is the past tense, the other one is the present tense. Any other question from anybody else? It's a long lesson, as I mentioned. So as I saw, I think it was how many exercises do we have? Let me just quickly take a good glance. In this book in this lesson we have, 33 exercises. Generally we have 34 actually. Generally we have like 10 exercises maximum, but this book has like 34. This lesson has 34 exercises. So that means probably may end up having like 2 more sessions just to be able to complete this lesson. And hopefully, Sambai, when we'll do more exercises, maybe it will help clarify that part as well. When you'll connect the sentences, you'll see that the word will actually get added afterwards. When another word gets added afterwards, that's why you're calling as mutaharrik, right? So hopefully that will clarify also.
That's what I was thinking, inshallah.
Yeah. There is no exercises for this week. One thing I was thinking, it just came to my mind because a lot of people ask me this question, very regularly. That can we make a dua, in my own language when I'm in my sujood? So I always tell them, why can't you make this in Arabic language? Just make this in Arabic language. It's okay to make it if you don't know Arabic language, but for you guys, because you're learning Arabic language, it is actually really important that you make any dua that you do in your own language. So start. My request would be, if you want to do Google, it's also okay. But otherwise, uh, make simple sentences where you need something from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. For example, right? If you're looking for um good health, right? So we use the words Allahumma atini, right? Allahumma atini, meaning that you're asking Allah to grant you something, right? Or you can also say Rabbi Habli, right? Allahumma Rabbi Habli, like, oh Allah, grant me, right? So start with these two, Rabbi Habli or Allahumma Atini, and then start adding, maybe make 5, 10 things that you generally ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, right? Children, wealth, a good job, a good spouse, a good house, right? Jannatul Firdaus, right? All these things that you generally ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, try to make those. If you want to do this as your exercise for this week, that's also okay. It's not obligation. But try to make 10 du'as that you want to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for yourself, right? Again, I gave you the example. Use the word Rabbi Habli or Allahumma Atini, and then add whatever you need from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Make one word only. Allahumma Atini, right? Whatever, a sayyara, right? Sayyaratul Jamila, right? That give me a beautiful car, or whatever you need from Allah, right? So,
Rabbi Zidni.
yeah, you can also ask this as well. You can say this as well. But I'm making it easy. Rabbi Habli is very easier, right? You can also say Allah Atini, right? Or Allah, give me something, right? So make those 10 du'as for yourself that you can make when you're sujood, or in your du'as that you generally make in your own language. So to avoid making those du'as, in your own language, it's best to be able to start making those du'as in Arabic language because you're learning Arabic. So try to make those 10 du'as. If you can, try to write it down and then send it on your WhatsApp group, right? Maybe that's your assignment
So,
for this week.
why do you have to make it in Arabic? Because Allah.
Because you are learning Arabic language. That's why. You're the last people that should be making those du'as in your own language. It's nothing wrong. If you, of course, you can make the du'a in your own language. I'm saying to be able to get comfortable making those du'as in the Arabic language as well. And then when the scholars will, do this, and when you'll learn from scholars and you see scholars making those du'as, you'll understand those du'as as well, right? So try to make those du'as. Try to write 10 du'as that you want to make. Make it very simple. Rabbi Habli or Allah Ma'atini, and then add whatever you need from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So you can search the words online if you want to, if you remember those words, but try to write those 10, on a piece of paper, on your iPad, wherever, right? And then try to send it on the group. It's not again mandatory for this exercise, but it is better if you do this because it's going to help you to be able to just get comfortable speaking the Arabic language also. Any other questions from anybody? Okay, if there are no questions for today, inshallah, this is where we will end and we'll meet next week. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.